وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا.
Allah sent His messenger to call people to eternal success. And that is why Muslims in Norway are now establishing a masjid and dawah center to enhance the Norwegian dawah. But they cannot do this alone. We need to support them. If you donate to this cause, you will inshallah reap the rewards of thousands of Muslims coming back to Islam. So click the link and donate now and share the video for extra reward.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. Welcome to another episode of our Ramadan series, where we dive deep into the false claims of Islamophobes, expose misinformation with solid facts and truth. In today's episode, we respond to a man who claims to have been a devout Muslim for 16 years, only to convert to Christianity. What prompted such a dramatic change in his life? Certain recurring issues, he says, led him to question the faith he had preached and defended for over a decade and a half. In this video, he uses Quran chapter 4 verse 24, which states, "Also forbidden a married woman except female captives in your possession," to explain why he not only left Islam, but also relentlessly attacks what he claims to be an evil ideology. Let's hear what he has to say.
Both the Quran and Muhammad teach that it's permissible, halal, to capture and rape female war captives, even if these women are married and their non-Muslim husbands are still alive. So let's investigate the Islamic sources to see what they say. The Quran in chapter 4 verses 22 and 23 informs Muslim men about the categories of women which they are forbidden to marry. But in ayah number 24 we read, وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. Also forbidden are women already married, except those whom your right hands possess.
So, Akhi Mohammed, Hijab, what is the wisdom behind these verses? Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first and foremost, what he's actually claimed about those verses are flatly false. I mean, they're baseless lies, flat-footed assumptions. Because the truth of the matter is that the Quran, first and foremost, has an emancipatory discourse, the like of which the Bible does not have. For example, in Surah Al-Balad, it mentions, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ. That what is the good way? The good way is freeing slaves. So if someone is going to be fair about the Quranic discourse as a whole, they would first have to start by saying there is an emancipatory discourse. And of course, there are many ways in which freeing a slave is an obligation. You free a slave, for example, if you take an oath. You free a slave, for example, if you do something called vihar. And all these things are mentioned in the Quran, right? So you have all these pathways of freeing slaves in Islam, which indicates that it's a good thing. And obviously, the Quran says itself it's a good thing, that freeing slaves is a good thing. Someone would argue, then why is there not an abolition of the slaves? Why is it not like that? Because this is what people don't understand. We're living in the 21st century, and when they try and abolish things, I mean, they've tried to abolish things only just recently, in, for example, the abolition in America. It doesn't work like that. I mean, sometimes it falls apart. Something which is deeply entrenched into the economic fabric of a society needs to be graded out of a society in a kind of incremental, gradualist manner. So the first thing one could argue is, yes, that freeing slaves is something that Islam and the Quran wants us to do. In fact, some of the usulis, the great usulis of Islam, people like Shatibi and others, have actually mentioned this quite explicitly. So that's the first thing that needs to be mentioned. Just mentioned here, which I think is extremely important, is that there's no doubt that Islam, the Quran in particular, has an emancipatory discourse. Going to the verses in question, it's not just Surah An-Nisa, verse 24, but it's many other verses in the Quran. The phrase right hand possess is mentioned. To be fair, the phrase slave is not mentioned. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ in a hadith explicitly said, do not call somebody, your master or your slave. Instead, call him young man, this and that. So this kind of language is not encouraged in Islam. And it should be noted as well that, of course, the word slave in the English language, and in particular in Western culture, is fraught with racist connotations because of the transatlantic slave trade, which was predicated on a racial prejudice, the like of which we have not witnessed in the Islamic discourse. Not to say we haven't witnessed it in the Muslim world. That's a different question. Of course, there is racism in the Muslim world, has always been racism in the Muslim world, and tribalism, something the Prophet ﷺ actually tried to combat at his time himself. But we're talking about the Islamic discourse, and we have the famous hadith of the Prophet saying...
So you're saying that you should not call someone whom your right hand possess, which is the term that the Quran uses, yes?
Yeah.
You should not call them your slave, right?
Absolutely.
And while we have the term slave, but it is used in reference to Allah, we are the slaves of Allah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I mean, if you think about what's actually happening here, what's actually happening is that you have people that are taking over other cities or countries or places, and then you have a surplus of women and children who, because their husbands have died in war, etc., now they need to be reintegrated into society. And when they're being reintegrated into society now, they become what is referred to as right-hand possess. Now, right-hand possess is something that is not specific to the Islamic, sphere or the Islamic communities. It's something which essentially every empire was doing at the time. So Islam came to regulate this process. And through the regulation is, for example, there's a iddah period. There is a period of, you can call it a transition, this, where the woman is not just, having intercourse with the man as soon as he conquers the area. No, there is a transitional period. And then the allegation of rape, or you can rape, I find this quite incredulous, in fact. And the reason why I find this incredulous and actually implausible, as per the Islamic discourse, is simply because one of Islam's major principles is ad-darar yuzal, that harm is to be averted. Yes. The Prophet said it himself, la darar wa la dirar. There is no harming yourself or reciprocating harm.
Yes.
So I don't understand. Rape is one of the most manifest expressions of harming somebody.
Definitely.
You cannot say that Islam allows something which its principles disallow in essence.
Yeah.
Raping a woman against her will and so on and so forth. This is something that you cannot imagine that Islam allows. So whether it's in a marital setting or whether it's in this, I'll give you a 2 or 3 examples of this which will kill the shubha completely. It will kill it.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Number 1. The hadith, which is actually a controversial hadith, okay, of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where basically he said that if your wife doesn't have intercourse with you at night, then the angels will curse her.
Yes.
Okay, that hadith indicates there is no
forcing.
There is no consequence. Immediate consequence the man should enact. Because there's another riwayah of the hadith that says that he'll be tossing and turning all night, which means he's sexually frustrated now. So in other words, if it was the case that he was meant to be enacting his the sexual thing, then he wouldn't be tossing and turning, number 1. Yeah. Number 2, which is even more powerful. People don't know this one. And I'll tell you it today, right now. That this is mentioned in Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ had a wife. No one knows her name even. Okay. Her name was Bint Joan. She's not mentioned in the books of many books and stuff like that. The viewers will say, what? You say, yes. No, this is new information. This is why they should invest in Islam Net so they can get this crucial golden nuggets that they would not get otherwise. Bint Joan. Bint Joan married the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. First night, she said, A'udhu billah mink. So I seek refuge in Allah from you. Now, what does that mean? Why did she say it? It's all vague. It's ambiguous. Now, this was at the point where the consummation was meant to happen. The Prophet Muhammad, how did he react to this behavior? He told her to go back to her family, which is a divorce. Yes. The Prophet divorced this woman before he even had intercourse with her. Now, what does this indicate? Now, if rape was allowed, it doesn't. Why would he tell her to go back? Exactly. Why would he tell her to go back? He should have just forced himself upon her and so on and so forth. That did not happen. Yeah. In fact, this kills 2 shubhat in one. Yeah. It kills one shubha, which is that rape is allowed in Islam, which is false. Yes. Anyone who says this and that, and these arguments are weak. Anyone who says raping and sexually assaulting a woman, crying and this and that, how can you think Islam allows it? It does not allow, I can tell you. It does not allow this. Yeah? You have a misunderstanding of the principles of Islam if you think that you can force yourself upon a woman, whether she is your wife or whether she is a slave or whether you have a misunderstanding. Yeah. And you're actually a weak and insecure man if you're a Muslim who believes this. Because that's how many people, because why would you need to force a woman to be with you? The Prophet ﷺ,
MashaAllah, you're still here. Just make sure that you donate by clicking the link below because the rewards are unimaginable.
The way he dealt with the matter, okay, was that as soon as he sensed hesitation, he ended termination. He ended everything. You go. We don't, yeah, so subhanAllah, this is mentioned Bukhari. So that's the second thing we mentioned.
Yes.
The third thing I mentioned now, so we mentioned the emancipatory discourse, number one, which is undisputed. It's undisputed, incontrovertible, indubitable. Something mentioned in the Quran, Hadith, and Ijma'.
Yes.
Number two, we mentioned the Hadith that I've just mentioned right now.
Yeah.
Number three, we explained the transitional period. And number four, we explained the incremental aspect of Islam and how it. Number five now, this person, he says, is Christian. And this is where it's the golden bullet. This is where it's a knockout. Because if your problem is that a religion endorses sexual intercourse, rape, sexual assault, intercourse with minors, even because that's another shubha, but we'll bring it all in one.
Yes.
Then I would like him to read Numbers, chapter number 31, verse number 18. And in fact, forget about just reading that, because someone will say that's your interpretation. I'm going to read out to you right now the professional opinion of Shane Cohen, who is a professor of Hebrew literature and philosophy in the Department of Near Eastern Language and Civilization for Harvard University itself. Okay. He explains that when the Bible mentions in chapter number 31, verse number 18, but all of those female children, this is what is mentioned. This is the Jubilee Bible, 2000. But all the female children, word in Hebrew is taf, that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourself. Okay. Shane Cohen, who is one of the top scholars, and you can tell he's from a Jewish background himself, he says, for yourself is clear that Moses' soldiers could use females sexually, use them sexually. He continues, Moses enjoins upon the returning warriors to kill their Midianite female captives who have lain with a man, but spare for yourself every young woman who has not had carnal relations with a man. We may be sure, he's saying, that for yourself, he's saying we may be sure, means that the warriors may use their virgin captives sexually. This is what he's saying. And this is mentioned, Shane Cohen, in his book. The book is called The Beginnings of Jewishness, Boundaries, Varieties, Uncertainties, University of California Press, Berkeley, Los Angeles, London, and it is page number 255, 256. He's not the only person who says this. You have rabbis going all the way back who say the same thing. Your Bible says this. Now someone will say, well, the Bible was the old law. Well, I say, well, you believe in the Trinity, which means that Jesus is the author of the Old Testament. Yes. He's the author. He is commanding you to rape, according to you. Do not tell me you're leaving a religion which does not have the word rape is not mentioned anywhere in the Quran and Sunnah. I dare, challenge, my challenge. Find the word rape anywhere, let alone an instruction to do such a thing.
Yeah.
Huh? That's number one. Number two, as I mentioned, emancipatory discourse and this and that and the other, the argument I made. Yeah. Number three, find me an equivalent verse of Numbers 31:18 in the Quran.
It doesn't exist.
So you're moving from a religion that explicitly does not endorse such a thing to a religion which explicitly endorses such a thing and which your God commanded to that thing. How dare you? Every accusation is a confession. You don't know your own text, and if you're ingenuous and if you are authentic, then you will really forget about becoming Muslim. We don't need you to become Muslim. Leave Islam, do this, do what you want. We don't care. يَعْمَلُ بِالشِّئْتُمْ, as the Quran says, do what you want. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wants to can believe, and whoever wants to can disbelieve. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلَيَ دِينٍ. I have my religion, you have yours. No problem. All that is fine. But now, according to your principles, your moral standards, you must leave Christianity.
That's true.
If you're a Jew, you must leave Judaism. I want you to announce your apostasy from Christianity. If you don't, then you're disingenuous. You're lying.
Hypocrites.
Or you're lying about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's up to you now. You have to endure the contradictions. You must endure the contradictions. Up to you. But the evidences have been provided. Yeah. The references are there, and I can show you a plethora, myriad evidences to this effect. And I think that completely smashes this shubha. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it's destroyed. It's absolutely destroyed.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything left to say after that.
Yeah.
Except that, brothers and sisters, if you want us to keep producing this kind of quality material, making it available for the masses, challenging these false accusations and refuting these individuals who are spreading lies against our faith, then you need to be part of this project. You need to be part of the IslamNet Da'wah movement,
Yes.
where we are challenging these things. With your donations, brothers and sisters, you can share in the immense rewards of producing these high-level productions. You can share in the immense reward of establishing this masjid that we are in right now, producing this.
Consider ourselves, and I want them to imagine this imagery, that we're in a bunker and we are firing the most potent and important intellectualized missiles to the enemies of Islam.
Yeah.
These intellectual missiles are landing on target. Bro, you're not going to get a missile that lands more on target than with IslamNet. Mohammed Hijab connection, bro. This is the IslamNet movement.
Yeah,
Tell me of a place where the intellectual missiles of Islam hit hard into the heartland of the anti-Muslim unit more than this. There is not one. There is not one in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you want to fund something and you want to protect your children and your grandchildren, press the button. What are you waiting for? What do you want? What do you want to see next? Who do we have to defeat next? What kind of intellectual proof do you want to see next? Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
MashaAllah. So brothers and sisters, it's the month of Ramadan. This is the month of giving charity. This is the month that the Prophet ﷺ was the most generous of all times. If you do not take a part in this khair, in this production, in this studio, in this masjid, in all of the great work that we are doing to elevate the religion of Allah, then I don't know what you will be spending your money on. This is the best, inshallah ta'ala, of the best avenues that you can put your sadaqah this Ramadan. So for that sake, I ask you, click the link. It will only take a few seconds.
A few seconds?
Yeah.
It'll take you as much as you do scrolling and this and that. Let's be honest, how long you spend in the toilet, how much you wash your hands. Bro, imagine you can be saving someone's iman.
Yeah.
There's a high chance that by pressing the link and doing
Yes.
that, bringing someone to Islam.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's be honest, we're not going to be as charitable in other parts of the year. Yes. Ramadan is the time where Allah does tad'if of the rewards.
Yes.
He multiplies it sevenfold, tenfold, hundredfold, millionfold. We don't know how Allah does it, but it will be amazing, akhi.
Yes.
And so imagine doing it now. It's like the best return of investment. You might die tomorrow. When are you going to do it?
That's true.
Akhi, just do it.
Yeah. And even Yani, the content that we went through in this video, it's so profound. Everyone have had this shubha once in their lifetime.
Yes.
They've thought about it. Okay, Islam teaches about slavery, raping women. We've heard this, we've heard that, but we don't have a clear answer. The answer has been clarified today. Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd. So brothers and sisters, make the donation, click the link, and we will see you in the next episode. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.